Good morning, Brownsville. Good afternoon and good evening, depending on when you're watching this feed. If it is your first time here, welcome. My name is Frank Olivo. Our program focuses on the very important issues that are affecting our local community. We have shed light on injustices and we have allowed for our platform, this mic, to be that of the voice of the people. Now, if this is something you can see yourself supporting, we ask that you like, comment, and share this live feed. Now, as of late, our Facebook page is at risk of being taken down. The powers that be do not want you, the voter, to know the truth. But remember, we will not be silenced. Now, if you're really about the cause and you want to stand up to corruption and you want to hold our elected leaders and those in leadership positions accountable, well, we ask that you subscribe to our social media platforms. Currently, right now, this live program is being streamed on X, formerly known as Twitter, and on Facebook. We could be found under Frankie Olivo. Make sure that you follow our personal page on Facebook. We could be found under Olivo Frankie. But more importantly, we ask that you create a Gmail account, go to YouTube, like, subscribe, and follow our YouTube channel titled Frankie Olivo TV. It's free. Remember, Good Morning Brownsville will come on Monday through Friday at 9 a.m., sometimes a little bit after, religiously. So make sure that you subscribe to Frankie Olivo TV to tune in. Remember, we will not be silenced. And always remember, Brownsville, we are forever grateful to each and every one of you for the time and attention that you provide us. Thank you so much for that. How we doing, chat? How we doing? Happy Thursday. Happy Baby Friday. I do want to apologize before we get started with today's show. I am having some technical difficulties. It's always technology. For those of you that have been following this program, and you might have possibly been aware, I am very OCD. I'm very particular in regards to my craft. I want to give y'all the very best product. And these past few days, I haven't. So for that, I do apologize. I have horrible internet. But, hey, I'm trying with what I have. Thank you so much for your patience and understanding. Good afternoon, Roman. How's your day going so far?
Going great, I guess. I don't know if you can hear me. Are you able to hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
Okay, yeah, just making sure the volume's okay because I can barely hear myself. It's going good. I apologize for being a little bit tardy. I was on the phone with some people and discussing, last night's BSD board meeting, which I assume we're gonna have to talk about again because of last night's meeting and talk a little bit about some of the insights that happened at BISD on election night that y'all may not know about. So I guess we'll talk about wherever you want to lead me. And I'm sorry your internet is still stuck. Hopefully tomorrow your internet will be back to normal. It needs to be, God willing. If not, we'll do a show on Monday.
It's been an eventful past few days, and yesterday at the monthly board meeting there was fireworks, and that's something that we want to talk about today. Um, I don't want to go through the video, Roman. It is pretty lengthy. I do want to focus on key points
Yeah.
that we did. We could possibly discuss what you got from it. I am going to leave a link. I am going to leave a link here in the comment section. That way, our community, if you want to, after this program, you want to follow along, go ahead and do so. I did leave the links here. Once I have good internet, you'll be able to. Roman, give us a little synopsis very quickly in regards to what happened yesterday at the board meeting.
Different perspective synopsis. You have the idea of Frank Ortiz all of a sudden caring about the fund balance and voting against everything and anything he could possibly vote against to not spend money. I guess he's listening to the show. Don't think that just because you voted that way that somehow or another you're going to be in my good graces, Frank, because you're not, because it's going to take a little bit more like you willing to close schools and you willing to fire teachers. And I think I got another side track was you had the golden girl out there who I have no doubt is also watching the show. He's like, I care about the fund balance. I'm so concerned about the fund balance. And we really need to pay attention about the fund balance. And yet decide to raid the kitty anyway. Raid the fund balance and start spending money because we have to spend the money on that stuff, which is, I think it's very funny and very interesting that, she seems to want to do these things. She talks. She's the more eloquent version of Minerva Peña. She's nuts in that way. Not that I'm saying Minerva Peña is nuts, but it's just odd and strange that she wants to say, "Don't vote." We need to worry about the fund balance. We can't do that. We can't go in there. We can't spend that money. We can't use that money. Oh, you want me to vote in favor of spending $750,000? Oh yeah, and use the fund balance. Yeah. Totally. I think I also came away with we have to talk about Carlos Elizondo and Carlos not attending board meetings in person, continuing to not attending board meetings. That why the board still allows that to happen. If you can't show up in person, you shouldn't be there. I mean, we have a video image of him in his work clothes. Why is he in his work clothes? How are you able to serve two masters, Carlos? How are you able to be voting on these very, very important issues and listen to these people and listen to the presentations and vote on this stuff while you're at work? I mean, I don't know where he works. He may work in a hospital. I have no idea where the hell he works. But maybe there's people that he's taking care of him and the members of our community. Are you okay with that? Are you okay with that? I mean, look, you can do whatever the hell you want to, Carlos. You can earn money however the hell you need to earn money, but you have to make a choice. You're either going to be in person at these board meetings, be heard, or you're going to be working. You're going to be treating whoever the hell you're treating and your job. That's ridiculous. And I took away that. I'm a little disappointed in the fact that we have the finance people talking about, oh, we missed out on this particular money that should have been spent here. It wasn't included in the budget. We didn't realize it. We oversight. And yet then you have people that are questioning why people want a forensic audit. Like, well, yeah, because they're missing these things. Like, oh, we have oversight. And to be fair, I don't even think it was Mary's fault. The finance person, I think it was the fault of somebody else when it comes to the $250,000. I don't even think it was her. But she's taking the brunt of it because she's doing the presentation, so she's going to get blamed for it. And just like she's going to get blamed for that video that was presented on Monday night by Bisd. So there's a lot of interesting things that were said last night, and we can talk about it more in detail. But I think that was my perspective. It was a mess. It really was. And we're not even talking about what happened with Daniela and that vote that they did with Redfish.
So again, it was a very entertaining, lengthy meeting to say the least. And Roman, again, I try to stay away from being negative Nancy, as people have categorized our program, but good golly gee, these people are stupid. These people are giving us so much material, Roman, to cover. How in your right mind? Look, the biggest things that I got from yesterday's meeting was they were banking. They had all their eggs in the basket for this bond to pass, Roman. They were betting the farm. Everything, all their chips were moved into that table, Roman, and said, I'm all in Texas Hold'em. They were hoping that the citizens of Brownsville would have said, yes, Bisd, tax me more. You have messed up over and over, year in and year out. You haven't showed us that you can manage a budget of $500, now $600 million. Yes. Tax us even more. The somber interview of Dr. Chavez was deflated because he gave the excuse, Roman, on election night when the voters rejected Prop A and Prop B of the $460 million bond was, well, now we're going to have to spend even more money because in 2-3 years, inflation, market value, everything's going to be a lot more expensive. Yesterday, Roman, they did not allocate a forensic audit. They have to move funds around. These people are playing catch up. And again, ladies and gentlemen, these are your tax dollars. These are your public servants. These are the individuals that you elected. Don't you want them to be ahead of the game? Look, I'm so glad that I was raised in the streets, man. Why? Because it gives you like a sixth sense. It gives you like an intuition, like, hey, you got to hustle. You got to be street smart. You got to think ahead. You got to have plan A, plan B, plan C, plan D. These people, Roman, only had plan A, which was the bond. And for them to fail miserably and then to show up on Wednesday, on yesterday's meeting, Roman, and say, well, I don't know what we're gonna do, and we don't have money for a forensic audit. What forensic audit? That's one. They weren't prepared, Roman. Two, I'm not sure if you touched on it, but the Golden Girl and your boy Frank Ortiz are somehow now worried about the budget, worried about money, worried about finances. So you mean to tell me that they weren't worried about taxing the crap out of our elderly, our disabled community, those individuals that live on a fixed income? They weren't worried about raising their property taxes, Roman? Mm-hmm. But now, since the voters spoke loud and clear, now they have a different tune, Roman. Now it's a total 180. Nambre. That's what I hate about these politicians from the city. And I do want to talk about the LGBTQ task force. Maybe we could talk about that on Monday, Roman. Nobody has balls. Nobody has a spine, Roman. Nobody has what do we do? Oh, the voters voted against me, so I guess I'll align with the voters. No que muy bule. No que, yeah, let's vote for the bond. Let's raise the crap out of these people. Who cares? But now that the voters came out loud and clear, oh, well, now we need to focus on the budget. Now we need to. No, why? Because they're up for re-election. That was 2, Roman. And 3, again, I don't want to get too much into it. I just want to throw out the highlights, Roman, and then we could break it down even more. And then Redfish. Good God almighty. Let's talk about corruption. Let's talk about nepotism. Let's talk about conflicts of interest to my people. And look, yesterday we made a post that we got a lot of interaction on. A lot of people were criticizing me or this program, because I posted and I asked a question, and I wanted to get your thoughts on it, Roman, very quickly before we move on. I made this post, Roman. How could our BISD board president be sending her kids to private school and tell the people believe in BISD? What bothers me is that I have St. Joe people, her alumni, people that back her up. And look, I have nothing against private school. Do they have a better source of education? Possibly. Is it good that they want to go to a faith-based institution? By all means, send them. I have more power to you. But it looks bad, Roman. Maybe I'm wrong. It looks bad whenever you are a leader of an entity and you don't show people with actions by sending your kids to school, to that school. People are saying, oh, well, she's going to fix the problem. And then when the problem is fixed, then she'll send her kids. She's in her 5th year, people. It's either she's doing something good or what she's doing is not working. So what? We're going to wait to give her 16 years like we have seen how Minerva Peña has been on that board. So come on, people. Like, and I made sure that the teachers unions were on there because nobody's calling her out on it. That's one. And another thing was nobody seems to make a stink about her receiving money from Redfish. Again, everyone's so quick to call out Carlos, how you previously mentioned, Roman, in your post. Everyone's so quick to call out Carlos, but whenever it's the private school mom, why is everybody quiet? So again, stuff like this, people, it bothers me. It really does, because we have to hold our elected leaders accountable. I don't care if it's Minerva Peña, the Golden Girl. I don't care if it's Minerva Peña, who has gonna do what, Roman, 20 years of service to the city, to the district. I don't care if it's the Golden Girl who has less than 6 months on the job. I don't care. We have to hold our elected leaders accountable. If not, we're going to keep on getting and allowing these individuals to get elected. And look, what bothers me about Daniela, she's learning the ropes from her dad. Many people have said, look, why don't these people, why can't they make it out in the real world? Daniela went to a prestigious school. I'm not sure if SMU or what. I think she has like a marketing degree. Has she been able to to figure things out on her own? No. She had a nice cushy job with the Midi Cultural District. That's a political position. Does she do anything? No. And what does she do? She gets $80,000. She learned from her dad to suck on the tit. That's what bothers me. These people, Roman, in my opinion, they can't make it out in the real world. They need to be on the public tit, on the taxpayer tit, in order to survive in this world. That's one. Another thing, redfish. So now people are starting to learn that a board member is being paid by a vendor and she is still voting on it. I don't know, Roman. Maybe I'm crazy, but to me, that is crazy.
Well, so the reason I was we don't. I was told today, Roman, just so you know, Daniela doesn't work for Redfish anymore. Okay. It's like she doesn't get paid by them. I'm like, okay. And so you need to realize that she's not an employee. I'm like, okay. Here's the problem. I don't know whether that's true or not true at all. I don't. All I know is what happened at the meeting last night. You had Carlos Elizondo asking a question of the superintendent and saying, is there anybody, and I'm paraphrasing it, so I'm not going to get exactly it probably because I don't have the memory I used to have. Asking the superintendent, is there anybody on the board that's in a conflict right now with this vote? And the superintendent didn't say anything. So is there anybody have a conflict with this vendor? What about you? Daniela, I think he actually said Daniela, or maybe didn't say anything. And then you had Daniela said, I've already spoken with legal and there is no conflict. Why would you have to talk to legal to ask her if there's a conflict? I don't. Now, if let's say the person who talked to me and said, oh, she doesn't work for them. She hasn't worked for them for years. She doesn't get any money from them. Then why didn't Daniela just say that? How hard is it for Daniela to say, hey, I don't work for them anymore. I haven't worked for them since X number of years or whatever. I've already spoken with legal. There's no conflict, blah, blah, blah. Say that, but she didn't say that. She left it to the point of, I've already talked to legal. There's no conflict. And it made you wonder, wait a second. Well, why would Carlos say that?
Mm-hmm.
Why would Carlos ask that question? And maybe it's because Carlos likes to pretend that he's some sort of legal genius or something. But if I were him in that position, I would have asked the question a little bit more succinctly. I would have asked, Madam President, are you currently an employee of this vendor? She could have said yes or no. Do you currently receive any money outside of political contributions from this vendor? And then she could have answered the question. And then we would have known whether there's a problem or not. But that's not what happened last night. So it left me with doubt, and I'm allowed to have doubt as to whether or not there is a. Now, is there a technical legal conflict of interest that if you work for somebody that there's automatically a conflict? No, there isn't. You can actually work for somebody, like let's say a taxing entity, like let's say TSC, and you're a school board member and vote on issues of memorandums of understanding and things like that. Vote on those issues. There is no conflict under the law because you're not gaining as an individual. Again, I'm not a lawyer. I'm not pretending to be one, but I'm just, paraphrasing here. You don't have a substantial interest in that company or in that entity. Therefore, you can vote on it. You're not an owner per se. You're not, those are the reasons why you would be a legal conflict of interest. Now, is there an appearance of impropriety? That's up to you, the voter. That's up to you, the viewer. My belief is if you are working for that company or if you're working for that entity or you're working for anything, any sort of vote that implies that, you abstain, and that's just it. Now, again, I do not know for a fact whether or not Daniela is an employee of this company. I do not know for a fact whether or not Daniela is doing freelance work for this company. I don't know any of that. I do know, I think I know that there is a conflict of interest form that she has filled out, I believe, and it's on the BISD website. I believe that's there. And number two, I believe that there are images of her on the Redfish website right now. That is what I believe. And it leads me to wonder whether or not there really is one or not. Either way, I wouldn't have voted on it. Why? You just, and or at the very least, Daniela, just say up there, I don't get paid by them. I get no money from them. I get nothing from them whatsoever. I can vote on this issue. Rest assured, community, I'm good to go. And then everybody's happy. But right now, I'm not happy. I'm not satisfied as a voter. I'm not satisfied as a resident or a citizen of this community with what she did or how it was handled. But then again, I'm also not happy with the way Carlos handled it either, because he made it so open-ended that it's just like I'm frustrated with Carlos. But because quite frankly, Carlos should have been there in person. I hope that clarified everything for you. I hope.
Hey Roman, isn't that his job though? Isn't it his job to ask those questions? Because if it wasn't possibly for Carlos, maybe us as a community, or I'll speak about myself, maybe I wouldn't have known that there was this connection between a vendor and this vendor Redfish and Daniela Lopez Valdez. And the reason why I say that is because Daniela Lopez Valdez has been on the board for 5 years. Is it a coincidence that Redfish got the contract 5 years ago? Is it a coincidence? I don't know. So for someone like Carlos Lizondo to bring up this issue of, hey, are you on the take? Are you on the, and that's something that's very interesting because everyone seems to be accusing everyone of being on the take, unfortunately. So it's disappointing. It's very disappointing, Roman, to have this. And you made an awesome point. The appearance of impropriety. It's important for all of us to recognize that these individuals, that what they should do is that they should focus on making sure that we are not being lied to. We should focus on making sure that whatever those individuals that are representing us are doing it to the best of their ability without having the appearance of impropriety. What bothers me is whenever people do this stuff and then we find out later that there's some sort of connection, there's some sort of, and again, look, for those individuals, they say that attorneys and judges, they do their job. It's like Lady Liberty. Why do you think that she has her eyes closed? Because, she wants to be impartial. She wants to be, quote unquote, fair, Roman. So I appreciate someone like Carlos calling her out on it because it.
But did he really though? That's my question, Frankie. I mean, he didn't do it. I mean, granted, not everyone's going to be me, but ask the right way of asking the question to make sure. And I'm not denying that he opened the door for us to be able to discuss it. Obviously, we're discussing it right now, but we don't know the truth based off of what he said. What we do know is what she said is she spoke with legal and there's no conflict. Well, what did you ask legal? Like, there was no more detail. Like, there was no back and forth. He just shut up. And maybe he just shut up because he's busy dealing with his work crap that he needs to deal with. And I'm not saying what he does is crap. I'm just saying, it's work stuff. Maybe he wasn't able to be on his toes to ask the right questions to be able to do it. And that's why I believe that the board needs to change the policy and eliminate this remote crap. And that is crap. We're no longer in COVID. If you can't show up in person, you don't vote. If you can't show up in person, you don't participate. You need to show up in person. And I think that's the failing. So we're kind of doing half blind here, on what this really is. I mean, it's my understanding that there is a conflict of interest form on the BISD website. I mean, at one point in time there was. I don't know if it's still there. I believe they've changed the website so many damn times. I don't even know it anymore. But the conflict of interest shows that there is no conflict of interest. I think that's what that form says.
So then how do they explain this website? Why is she here? Is she doing it out of the kindness of her heart? Is she doing this work for free? Is she an elected official that wants to lend her name to a vendor? Because again, to the average Joe, Roman, this looks horrible. This looks bad.
It looks. I would agree with you. It looks bad. It looks really bad. And that's my personal opinion. We're allowed to have this. I don't like it. Again, it would have been easily solved, to avoid any potential concern that we have. Just to vote on it. And I do think that people should have called her out, or at least if a board member knew that, hey, there's no conflict, this is why, or explain it, or maybe asked a little bit of a question like, hey, are you in, just that's what they could have done by calling them out and say, hey, Carlos is talking his shit. Guess what are you doing? Danielle, let me ask you a better question or something. But no, todos están ahí bien calladitos. Like nobody, it's like they don't want to get in the middle of the fight between Daniela and Carlos. It's like, it's stupid. That's what happens on this board. This board is made up of a majority of dumb people. And I'm not going to say who's dumb on the board at this point. I'm just going to say a majority of dumb people.
Yeah, it just leads us to question and ask, well, is there something wrong? Is somebody doing something that they shouldn't be doing? And again, ladies and gentlemen, we've all been. Whenever you ask anybody within the RGV, whenever you talk about politicians, the first thing you think of is corruption. Hey, we're not too far from the conviction and imprisonment of someone like Sylvia Atkinson, who was serving on the board when this happened. Vanessa Trevino says, how funny that when you look up the website on your phone, you see the picture you're showing us, but when you go on your computer, nothing. Again, maybe they're trying to backtrack. Maybe they're trying to, because yesterday I focused on bringing this to light because people were messaging me. People were saying, Frankie, these guys are dumb. Like, it's so blatant. It's in the open. We had what's his name, Ruben Guerrero, if I'm not mistaken. If you go to my Facebook page, and again, I'm having technical difficulties, I can't show you, but if you go to our Facebook page, when we showed this, that and we asked the question, is Daniel Lopez Valdez getting paid by Redfish? Ruben Guerrero is the owner of a recycling company who said that he had one time, and I believe it's his family business, now he's taking over, he had one time was providing recycling services to the school district, and that it was Redfish who either outbid him or underbid him or something like that. And then he is kind of alluding to the fact like, well, there must be something there. There must be a reason why they got this contract. But again, these people, ladies and gentlemen, they give us the ammunition to keep on relating them with corruption, with lying, with using these positions to benefit financially. So it just leaves a bad taste in my mouth, Roman. It just calls to question their leadership, their motives, Roman. So it's not a good look, in my opinion.
I just want to make sure you're not trying to make Carlos look into like a hero or some type. You're not doing that at all. I just want to make sure you're not doing that.
Oh, I'm not calling him a hero. The only way I consider somebody a hero is like if they, I don't know, save someone, if they, if they protected someone dying, or no. But again, but again, we should be thankful that they're calling each other out, just the way Denise Garza called out Carlos Elizondo, not by name, but we all knew who she was addressing her statements to. She said, Well, there's someone on this board that was using insider information to provide a vendor, an insurance vendor, with information that was not privy to the public.
Right.
That to me is corruption. That to me is rigging the process. So, no, I'm not calling him a hero, but again, he's helping us in asking these questions because he's pretty much putting a microscope under this situation. Because
yeah, I understand what you're saying. I just want to make sure, because I know it's not, and not everybody watches every single show, and they may not remember the things that you've said before and previously,
Right.
like when you came to Denise, because people might be watching this for the first time and think, oh, he thinks Carlos is the hero. Carlos is great. Carlos is like, nah. Yeah, I mean, I think you try to, criticize them as much as you can.
Equally, right.
You're not you try to call a spade. One of the things that I was asked earlier, and I want to make sure that we talk about that now, before we go into the meeting, because there have been people that have called me up and said, Roman, are you gonna support the school closures? And I was like, yeah, I'm on board. Close them. Like, well, do you think Frankie is too? And like, yeah, because Frankie's been talking about it. We've been talking about the reality of schools needing to be closed. It's unfortunate that we have some board members like Minerva Peña and Frank Ortiz who probably won't ever want to close schools at all, because they'll do everything they can to stop it because they think there's money grows on trees or for whatever reason. Anyway, but so I was like, can you make sure that Frankie's in favor of it? And I'm just like, I don't think I have to, but I'll do it so that we can appease your little concerns, even though I know that he's in favor of closing schools because we've been talking about it for months.
Mm-hmm.
We even on election night, we're like, okay, time to close schools. We got to be real. And I'll tell you that it's my understanding that next week there will be a facilities committee meeting. And this topic of consolidation will be on the table. So I was asked, can you just ask Frankie? And I'm like, fine. I'm asking Frankie, are you in favor of closing schools, and will you support closing schools?
Yes.
There's your answer.
That's the most logical thing that we have to do. It doesn't make sense, by having these schools in operation, we're spending money and we're not getting the money back in return. Right. So essentially, we're going to lose money in the long run. Ladies and gentlemen, think about those parents that send their children off to college. They have 3-4 children, Roman. They have a nice big 4 or 5 bedroom home. What happens for the most part? What happens when their children go off to college? They downsize. Why? Because they don't need the room no more. Nobody is there. They're empty rooms. They're spending more on taxes. They're spending more on energy. They're spending more on rent if they're renting. And what do? Usually they downsize to a 1, 2, or 3 bedroom. Why? Because so it could, be more efficient. So I understand that people possibly want to hold this against us and say, oh, you see, you don't care about the schools. You just want to close schools. And what do you think about the children? Ladies and gentlemen, we have to look ourselves in the mirror. In a perfect world, we would want to go back to 52 campuses the way we did back in 2015, where we had close to 50,000 students. Reality, and again, based on the data that BISD has shown and that our own superintendent has stated, in 5 years, BISD anticipates the enrollment to be around 28,000. Can you imagine that? So you're going to have empty rooms. You're going to have a small student-teacher ratio, which, well, I guess that's good, but logically speaking, that doesn't make sense. We're spending money. So again, we need to be real with the community. We need to sit down and look at the numbers. We need to look at finances. We have to swallow this pill. I know it's difficult. Nobody wants to have this conversation. Last night, I spoke with somebody who told me, Frankie, did you know that high school could have around 100 teachers? Middle schools could have anywhere from 75 to 100, elementaries, And I was thinking, damn. And he's like, Frankie, where do you put these people? And I said, I don't know, ma'am. Where do we put these people? You know what she said? Frankie, they're going to have to close schools. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. There's no possible way that we can continue with this idea that we're gonna have these schools open because financially it doesn't make sense.
Mm.
And again, look, you're gonna have people that are gonna be vouching for, we have, what's her name, Gina Hinojosa, who's don't close schools. I fought in Austin. Da, 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 da. The reality is that we're losing students. We're gonna lose students now. We had TVA saying that we were being negative, that we ran a negative campaign.
A
It
smear
wasn't.
campaign, I think, was used by one of them, right? Smear
I'm sorry.
campaign.
I'm sorry. A smear campaign. No, sir. It was no smear campaign. I think the community just thought logically and thought with their pocketbooks.
Mm.
So, again, that's the reality, ladies and gentlemen. We do have to close schools. I feel for people, but the reality is this isn't our fault. This is the district's fault, ladies and gentlemen. The district thought that they were going to be this monster for years and years and years to come, and they were just build. Well, now things have changed.
Mhm.
And logically speaking, to me, it doesn't make sense to have these schools available when we're going to continue to lose students at a rapid pace.
Yeah, I mean, and there was a couple of things that happened on the election night, and then we'll go back to talking about the meeting because that's what this show is about, last night's meeting. So keep, there's a teaser. But on, election night, people were asking me, and even to yesterday, were asking me, do you really believe, Roman, that Daniela was the reason why this bond failed? I'm like, yeah, I believe she was an easy person to criticize. It's just like, it's no different. And I didn't use this example to them. I'm going to use it here because I don't always tell everybody everything until I'm come on this show. So you all hear my brain work. It's no different than what the Republicans did to criticize the Democrats when Speaker Pelosi was the Speaker of the House. And, you didn't necessarily run against your Democrat opponent. No, you ran against Speaker Pelosi. Or it's going to be no different than what Republicans are going to do over the next year. They're not going to run against the Democrats. They're going to run against the mayor of New York City. They're going to say, that's the boogeyman. That is the person we're going to criticize. So it's no different than what we do here in this election. We were using the facts of just a huge tax increase, all the things that they were presenting, and then we would criticize and we would remind everybody. And remember, the board president, who's basically the spokesperson for this bond, doesn't even believe in BISD. Even in her, I guess, concession address that she posted yesterday while we were on the show yesterday morning, I think it was, I don't know if you shared it or you posted it, Frankie. She didn't even say in there that I still believe in BISD, Brownsville ISD. She says, I still believe in Brownsville. She won't even say the words, I believe in BISD. Why? Because she knows she doesn't believe in BISD. She knows that because she doesn't even send her kids to BISD. So it was easy for myself, for Frankie, for other people to say, these are the facts. This is what's going on. And don't forget, Daniela doesn't even send the kids there. So I would actually argue, I mean, we had Jason Moody on commenting on Tuesday night on election night, and he was saying that they didn't even spend that much money on the VAT tree. And I said, that's great. You probably didn't. But who was the board president at that time? It was Jessica Gonzalez. And I know some of you are going to say, oh, it's because she's your friend, Roman. That's what you're saying. You don't like Daniela. Well, it's true. But just because I'm somebody's friend doesn't mean I don't criticize them.
It's
Jessica,
true.
it's true that she's my friend and I don't like Daniela. But it doesn't mean that I'm not going to criticize Jessica. I criticize her all the time. I criticize her because I don't support her on this bond. I think it was a mistake. But I will say this. It's harder. If she were a board president, it would have been harder for myself and Frankie to be able to say, hey, all these facts. And don't forget, Jessica Gonzalez, all her kids went to BISD. So she believed, oh, crap, we can't use that argument. You can't. It's harder to defeat that. What are we going to be able to use, to be able to be an image? Because it's hard to fight against an idea. It's hard to fight against money, taxes, and budgets, and those are like the minutia stuff for me and you, Frankie. But the everyday voter, they can't see it, they can't fathom it, they don't understand it. So you have to fight against somebody. It's easier to fight against Daniela Lopez Valdez with all her baggage, and the baggage being that she's the private school mom. It's easier to fight against that than it is to fight against Jessica Gonzalez. And again, yes, Jessica's my friend. Big freaking deal that she's my friend. It doesn't mean it's not true what I'm saying. I know I'm right. And that's why you all listen to me, because you know I'm right.
Roman, moving on to the forensic audit. What did you get from it? Because look, whenever we went live on election night, Tuesday, one of the biggest what can we say, suggestions, one of the biggest arguments that the chat was making was, we want to audit. We want to know where our money has been spent. We want to know where we're losing money. We want to know. It doesn't make sense to me that this board, this majority, was so quick to pass this bond and support this bond of $460 million that they did not want to do something such as an audit that was going to cost peanuts. Is that fair to say compared to that?
Well, we don't really know what an audit is going to cost, because depending on the scope of an audit, it could be in the millions of dollars to do a forensic audit. I mean, if you could probably do a Google search in terms of what Wesco ISD paid for their forensic audit, and they did a forensic audit, like a couple of years ago, if I'm not mistaken. I mean, it was a lot of freaking money. And they're a much smaller school district than we are in here in BISD. And it was yesterday's money. Everything's more expensive. The superintendent said that on election night. Everything's more expensive now. And we don't know what the scope is of the forensic audit. Now, this is where I'm going to disagree with Jessica Gonzalez. She was at the meeting last night, and she said, I don't support the forensic audit. I don't think we need to do this because we're getting all these awards from the TEA. I mean, you have all these things happening. I mean, we've already had all these audits and things like that. I disagree with her because I think it's okay to have a forensic audit. I think it was somewhat already approved to do, but not with the scope. It was voted on by people, and it was something that Erasmo Castro ran on, and that's why he was elected. So I think it's important to do those things, and I would support a forensic audit because I think we're going to be able to find other things. And unfortunately, like I said earlier, and I'll repeat again for those of you tuned in late, just like I was late, you might be tuning in late. We had the interim chief financial officer talk about how they made a mistake in budgeting. They left stuff out in the budget that was supposed to be there. And we're like, oh, we didn't do this right. And we promise we'll do it next time. It's like, wait a second. If you're making mistakes on this, what other mistakes could have been done? And again, she's the new chief I guess she's the interim. She wasn't there the last one, the one before then. So there might be other mistakes that were potentially made. And it's a good idea to do a forensic audit. Now, again, the cost is really, really high. I mean, we're talking about $350,000. We're going to have to rate in the fund balance in order to do it. But why didn't anybody on the board look at the budget and find that there was no money set aside in the budget that they voted on over the summer for the forensic audit? Where was Carlos, who keeps bitching about the forensic audit? Where was Minerva Peña, who says she has like the greatest hearing in the world and fine-tooth comb and does math and stuff? And where was she? Why didn't she notice it in the budget? Where was Frank Ortiz, who wants this? Where were those three individuals who were on the board then not pointing out, hey, wait a second, where's the money being for the forensic audit? So there's a lot of blame to be going around that it's not just going to be falling squarely on the glass palace. They have to look at the mirror themselves and say, hey, I wanted this. It should have been there. The question could have been asked, excuse me, at any point in time. Ma'am, Miss Interim Chief Financial Officer, can you let us know where in the budget the forensic audit is? Why did they assume that? Why did they assume that it was in the budget? Because they asked for it. Because I'm not saying anything nefarious happened and they did this on purpose. I'm not saying that.
Yes, he is.
No, I'm not. No, I'm not saying that.
I will.
I mean, it wasn't. It wasn't their pet project. It wasn't the forensic audit. Wasn't coming from the chief financial officer, or the auditor, or the superintendent. It was coming from the board members. They wanted it. And then you had the stupid Laguna girl like, well, can anybody set a forensic audit? Should we even have one? Is this even important? And like, anybody could do it just because one person wants to do it? Asking the stupidest effing questions, this woman. This is supposed to be this lifesaver. I know that there was at least one person who I don't remember who told me, oh, she was very impressive, Roman. Her resume is so impressive. She's such an expert. Oh, it's going to be great having her. And that's why everybody voted for her. She's great. She asks the stupidest freaking questions. She's such a hypocrite when it comes to some of this stuff. I mean, she voted yesterday I know I've said this before. I'll say it again. She voted to raid the fund balance after saying, well, I'm very concerned about it. I'm very concerned about the fund balance. We cannot be doing this. We cannot do this. We cannot do this. We have to save money. I mean, we have to do this thing. And then they had to vote. And then you have Miss Pat. Please vote. Yes. Yes. What the? What are you doing? What? Why would you? If you're saying you're concerned about the fund balance and you're rating it from, I don't know how much money did they rate the fund balance in yesterday? $1 million, somewhere on there. Maybe more, maybe less. And that's not good. That's not smart. That's dumb. But hey, she was listening to the taxpayers, and don't even get me started. Sorry, I'm going a little tangent. I mean, Minerva Peña's inability to vote the right way. She's voting yes, and then there was a mistake. I meant to vote no.
She always does that.
She always does it. Why? Why does she do these things? I'm like, is it time for us to? I mean, I questioned the ability of Daniela Lopez Valdez to tell the truth, and then maybe we should remove her for what was the raise in the law? It's like inconsistency, incompetence. At this point, isn't Minerva Peña incompetent when she can't even vote? It kind of makes you wonder. She was against the HVACs and the air conditioning. She was against all that stuff. She was in favor of the PAC, though. She was in favor of the PAC, and the reason she was in favor of the PAC,
take over Roman for a bit.
She was in favor of the PAC because she wanted to have graduation. She thought we could. Oh, when it failed on election night, she's like, oh, now we won't even be able to have a graduation at PAC. She told that to people there at the BISD glass ballot. We're not going to be able to have graduation at the PAC, Performing Arts Center. Oh, tear. And like that was never in the cards. That was never even promoted that the Performing Arts Center was going to hold graduation. You can't even hold graduation with 1,800 people. That's how big the Performing Arts Center was going to be. That's like, let's say you have a graduating class of 500 people. That means you're only going to be able to invite 2 people. I mean, to the Performing Arts Center. Like, that's how dumb Minerva Peña is when it comes to this stuff. And she can't even vote the right way. It's always, I meant to vote no. And it begs the question, either she's incompetent and doesn't know how to vote, and maybe she didn't even vote the right way on the ballot. But it kind of makes you wonder, is she changing her vote because she sees how Carlos voted, and then, Carlos voted no, I need to vote the same way. Oops, sorry. Oh, I didn't know she was going to vote that way. Because he's not there. He's not there right next to her. He's on the Zoom call or whatever. He's out there like freaking the Wizard of Oz, or the guy from Spaceballs, Mel Brooks from Space. I mean, come on, he's not there to be able to guide her, to hold her hand, to teach her how to do, vote the right way. But I don't know. I really don't know what the heck is going on, why she does the things that she does, but she does. I guess I have control of the show a little bit, so it's great. Since we're here, I'll tell you a little bit about election night, what I heard, and then when Frankie comes back, we'll talk more about the meeting from last night. But I was told that on election night, there were a gathering of all the who's who of the Glass Palace, and they were getting the results in. And when the results came in, there was excitement because the HVAC thing had supposedly passed because of the numbers that they got. And then Miss Peña was like, I think the math is wrong. And I guess she's, like the guy from Rain Man. He can figure out math in her head real quick. And she's like, it doesn't make any sense. And then somebody's like, no, Miss Peña. Some people will vote on one, but not the other. And that's why you see more on one versus the other. But she was disappointed because she felt, the PAC isn't going to pass. Oh, I can't believe it. She was distraught about it. And, it would have been easier if people, she wasn't necessarily telling people, what side she was on. You had one board member say, oh, yes, I told everybody to vote yes on both of them. And then you had like Golden Girl, I told everybody to vote yes on all of them. I vote on yes on both of them. And Ms. Peña was like, well, I told people to vote your conscience. Is that telling people to vote yes or to vote no? Remember, she came to the Brownsville Republican Club meeting, I believe, in September. Yeah, it was in September, and she told everybody because I asked her point blank, you opposed both the bonds. She said yes. She opposed them. And we had one of our members that was actually, I think she's a member, but at the very least, a reputable Republican who was watching the show at the time and agree with me. Yeah, that's exactly what Minerva Peña said, that she was against both of them, right? And it didn't, for whatever reason, she did what she's telling people to vote your conscience, which is very different. And that kind of makes me, again, that's why I say what I say about Miss Peña. I had a very, discussion with her, very loud discussion with her, um, about her inability to be consistent, her inability her ability to believe that money grows on trees, even though she says she doesn't. And I've told her point blank, we need to close schools. We need to fire teachers. I'm on your side. I'm there to help. We don't have to close schools. We don't have to close schools. What are you doing? We don't have to close schools. And it's like, we have to close schools. No, we don't have to fire teachers. We don't have to do that. There's the money there. The money's there. I'm like, the money's not there. The money's not there. You're having to dip into the fund balance. No, we're only dipping into the fund balance because of the insurance. No, you're dipping it. You voted for it, lady. You voted for going into the fund balance. That's what you did. And I have a real big problem with that, because she's supposed to be the hero on our side, right? She's the one who's gonna tell it how it is, right? She's the one who asks these questions. She has the best hearing in the world. She's a lawyer without being a lawyer. That's Miss Peña. And I don't even know she's even not really on our side. She's on Miss Peña's side. Hey, you're back, buddy.
Very quickly, if I could jump back to the whole redfish issue of the whole conflict of interest. In 2021, and I'm going to post it right now whenever I'm free. In 2021, Daniela and the board majority voted for BISD account to be transferred to the bank where Joey Lopez is a bank board member. I think it's Lone Star National, if I'm not mistaken. Didn't look good back then as well. When you have time, read this article. And they sent me the article. On Daniela's case, it's better to say I'm sorry than to ask for permission. So again, this family has always done things that benefits them, unfortunately. And look, a lot of people have been messaging me these past few days, even more so on election day. After election day, I've been bombarded. And look, there are some pending phone calls, text messages that I do need to fulfill. I apologize. I ask my community to be patient with me, please. I'm extremely busy. I'm trying my best, and I'm very thankful. I'm very thankful to have this line of communication with each and every one of you. I promise you, I will get back to you whenever I can. But they made an interesting point that these people have done what's in their best interest. And somebody said something very, very, very interesting to me. They said, Frankie, don't you think that now people are starting to see that the Lopezes are vulnerable? They feel as if the Lopez empire is about to decline. Why did they say that? This is the first time. You could correct me if I'm wrong, Roman. You are more politically savvier than I am. This is the first time that I've ever seen someone like Joey Lopez, who I thought was very strong politically, to have so many opponents. As of right now, he has 3, possibly more will file before the deadline in December. And they told me, don't you find that odd? Don't you feel as if people think that they are weak? Look at what Joey Lopez has done. Joey Lopez on that county commissioner position, he has given himself a raise at least 2 times. I used to work for the county when I was there. I think he did it when he was there. When I was there, when he was serving, I remember 1 time, possibly 2. This last time is 3 times. Why are individuals who run for public service, why are they giving themselves a raise? Public office should not be to enrich oneself. It should be to make your community better. That is why I humbly ask that if someone such as Roman Perez or Frankie Olivo ever decide to put their hat in the ring and serve you, the community, I'll speak for myself, and I'll definitely speak for Roman. We will never, ever enrich ourselves, our friends, or benefit from this position that is your position. That's what bothers me, Roman. And look, I blame the voters. But now I think people, Roman, are starting to realize, hey, these people can't make it on their own. These people are benefiting from these positions. Again, Joey Lopez has given himself, from what I recall, 2 raises, possibly 3. He went from making 40,000, now he's making closer to 60, 80,000.
It's
Cruz
actually like
says,
$93,000, buddy.
wow, even crazier. So they pretty much gave themselves a 90, 100%
Over
raise,
100% pay raise, yes.
over 100% pay. Like, are you kidding me? Like, really? And I understand people say, oh, well, we want to have competitive wages, we want to have competent people, we want to have Hidalgo, Harris County numbers. But you knew what the salary was when you signed up for the position. This public service should not be a tit that you suck on the taxpayers. And that's what they're doing. So as soon as I get off the air, and I apologize, I'm having technical difficulties today. I apologize, but I am going to make this post. And thank you so much to the community for reminding me. Daniela is always about, oops, I'm going to do this, but it's okay. I spoke with legal. Who gives a crap about optics, Roman? Who gives a crap what people think? Because I did nothing wrong. I'm okay with legal. But again, perception, optics, it's not a good look. So I encourage my community, and you're right, Yasmin. All commissioners, it's not just Joey in particular. No, I'm saying the commissioners' court across the board, the commissioners' court. They all, you're right, Jasmine. Thank you for correcting me. Not, it wasn't just Joey Lopez who did this. It was commissioners' court across the board. They have all given themselves a raise each and every opportunity. And what bothers me, Roman, as a former Cameron County employee, is they give peanuts to the workers. Here's a 1%. Here's a 2%. Hey, I gave you a raise, right? But after taxes, after inflation, it's peanuts. It's like, come on, man. So again, people such as Daniela, people such as Joey Lopez, all they know how to do is to suck on the taxpayer tit. They can't make it on their own, unfortunately. Look, I'm a small business owner. It's difficult. It's very difficult to pay your bills, to retain your clients, to find new clients. Hey, it's a dog-eat-dog world out here. But these people, oh, they give themselves raises, Roman, $40,000, $50,000 raise. Oh, Daniela gets a job with the mini cultural district for $80,000. It's a political job. She doesn't do crap. Oh, I get paid by Redfish, a vendor with the school district that I awarded a 3-year contract. Are you serious? And even more, that's the reason why you may not like it, but I like what Carlos did. He called it out. Again, I want her colleagues on the school board to call them out on their crap. Best believe our program, myself, I'll do that. I will do it with a smile on my face. But it shouldn't be someone like me. It shouldn't be someone like Roman. You know who it should be? These people on the screen, ladies and gentlemen, her colleagues. That is why I have been very adamant about they all must be voted out. Because, Roman, if they do not talk about this, if they do not bring this up to their attention, they are just as complicit in this act, Roman, in my opinion. Because if we see something wrong and we don't talk about it, we ourselves are part of that. It says, Daniela is the executive director for the Midi Cultural District, and they are giving city hotel tax funds. Could we say that as a taxpayer, that the taxpayers pay part of her salary? Yes, we do. So again, this corruption, oh, Brownsville, what a tangled web we weave. But again, go for it, Roman.
I'll say that with regards to them calling themselves out, I would agree with you that they should do that. It's no different than what I do as a Republican when I call out the bullshit in my party, and I expect, because I want my party to be better than Democrats. We need to police ourselves. That's why, there are Republicans out there locally, especially who don't necessarily like us or like me in particular, because I will call a spade a spade. When it comes to my party, I want my party to be better than Democrats. And so it's no different than what the board should do. Again, I don't I'm not saying one way or the other whether I like or don't like what Carlos did. I think that he could have done it a little bit differently and it been more effective to be able to get the answers so that we're not still in limbo trying to figure out whether or not, you know, whether or not she's an employee or receives any money from that vendor, because I don't know. I don't know, and I shouldn't have to ask those questions. I shouldn't be able to. I should be able to know. She should have been able to tell me. Now, if somebody else, like I said, somebody else told me, oh no, she's not, and he's like, well, don't you trust me, Roman? And I'm like, oh, I trust you. I don't trust Daniela. That's my thing. I don't like. Oh, you're no different than the other people. Like, why don't you trust? I'm like, I don't trust Daniela. I don't. I don't trust her, and it's and one reason I'll give you a specific reason why I don't trust her. She told everybody it was not a huge tax increase, and that was a lie. That was a lie. And I'm just like, if she, and it's not the first time she said everybody wasn't a tax increase 2 years ago. It was a tax increase. She lied, and she doesn't care because nobody calls her on the bullshit, and we did. And I think that's what really bothers her. And here's something about Daniela that maybe people don't realize about her. And I'm not, here to like attack her because I hate her. I don't hate anybody really. I don't. She doesn't believe that social media is real. So the things that we say, she doesn't pay attention to. She doesn't think it affects anything whatsoever. But I can tell you this much. It was because of social media that this bond failed.
I agree.
It was because, and there was nobody block walking against the bond. There was nobody out there. People block walking supposedly in favor of the bond, but there was nobody block walking against the bond. And the reason they were blocked, but social media was there. So social media defeated this issue. So if Daniela Lopez Valdez doesn't understand what the role that social media plays in terms of political narratives, then she's really dumb as rocks. I mean, not really, not literally, but figuratively. And I mean, isn't she supposed to be like a media person? I mean, how is it that you get a degree? I don't know what her specific degree is, but she works in she works in the media landscape, social media, things like that, and she doesn't think it's real. Like, what are you doing? Like, why would you say those things? Why would you think those things? So, I mean, going forward, I hope she realizes social media does play a role, and people like myself and you, Frankie, and others. I'm not gonna go through all the names. They do play a role in our community to be able to say the things, and I do try my best not to give out BS, not to, give you hyperbole. I do my best to do that. Maybe once in a while I might do hyperbole a little bit, but I don't. That's not my calling card, and that's why you have me on, Frankie, and that's one reason why your Tío Erasmo would always have me on, because I provide that balance of like, hey, slow your shit, slow down, and I do try to do that for everybody, and I hope that people take respect for that, and I think that's why this show right now is a little bit successful, and that's why people watch us, because they know that I'll be here and Frankie will be here, and we'll talk about what's out there. Now, I think we should really go focus on the meeting more so than we have. Is there anything specifically in the meeting that you want to? You already did the whole vendor thing. We talked a little bit about the fund balance. Let's talk a bit about Frank, if you don't mind.
Just do it.
What I find fascinating about Frank is that all of a sudden, like I said earlier, he's so interested in the fund balance. He voted against everything. I'm like, no, voter spoken. It's like, okay. At any point in time, did you hear him say that we need to close schools and that we have to fire teachers? I didn't hear it. Maybe I missed it. I had phone calls here and there. Anybody that watched it last night, did anybody else hear him say those words come out of his mouth? I don't think they did. I think he too was still shocked by the results of this election. I mean, he did vote in favor of it. He doesn't want to be criticized by me or Frankie. He doesn't want. He wants to lurk in the shadows. He doesn't want anybody. Criticize Carlos. Don't criticize me. Criticize Daniela. Don't criticize me. Criticize Jessica. Not me. I'm just here. I'm just lovable. Goldilocks. Just love me. And so, because I am doing a spotlight on Carlos. I mean, on Frankie. Sorry. No, Frankie. Sorry, Frankie. Frank Ortiz. I'm doing that because they all need to be held accountable for their stupidity. And Frank is just as stupid as some of the others. And I don't think he's ever going to close schools. I don't think he's ever going to do those things. He's going to try to hem and haw and say we don't have to do those things. Because, look, he is not very bright. He isn't. He is asks his very straight questions, tries to ask questions, doesn't really know. I mean, he did get a little bit after Minerva Peña last night. He's like, hey, I'm asking questions. Don't interrupt. Let me ask my question. Oh, bien chingon there. It's like, don't interrupt Miss Peña. I think it's really funny that he did that. But he's going to try everything he can to control. But I don't know if he's going to be able to control his buddy, like Golden Girl. Because even though he voted not to do the fund balance, not to rate the fund balance along with Minerva and Carlos, you saw the Golden Girl who he voted for, that he posted, he promoted, he supported, he wanted on that board. He can't control her because she's going to do her own thing. And she is doing her own thing. She is the swing vote. And most of the time she's voting with the girls. And there's nothing, you can't put that little genie back in the bottle, Frank. Not. I mean, do you think that he'll vote to close schools? Is he going to show up and say, yeah, we need to start closing schools? Or he's going to, oh, we don't need to do that?
I would like to ask the community. Again, we have great numbers right now. You know, we have close to 1,000 views already, and we're still not even done. Thank you so much to each and every one of you that, and again, it's because of people like y'all, man, that have been actively participating, actively calling, actively text messaging, being a part of the process. Look, I appreciate someone like Roman because I genuinely feel as if Roman says it the way it is, and you know, he might sugarcoat some things, but for the most part, he's pretty raw. You know what I mean? How does the community feel? If I could ask the chat right here, is everyone in agreement that the most pressing issue for the school district moving forward is that we have to close/consolidate schools? Is that a common consensus that there is out there? And I ask that because look, it's a sensitive issue, Roman. Whenever we had Del Castillo Southmost closing, we had people go up to the podium in public comments and cry, Roman. I understand that these schools hold sentimental value. Many people, whether that's former students, current former teachers, feel some sort of emotional connections to these properties, because of the memories that were shared at these, you know, at these schools. But I think the most logical thing is to close schools. How does the community feel? Do you understand that in the next 5 years, the school district right now, we're anywhere from 35 to 32,000 students right now, in that range. In 5 years, Dr. Chavez said around 2030, 2031, the school district is going to have 28,000 students. Do you know how skinny that is? Is there a consensus in this chat that we understand that, yes, we do need to close schools? Or is that something that, you know, someone like myself or Frankie is, you know, being mean or not reading the room? How does the community feel? I have Santana here that says San Antonio ISD last year we're closing 15 schools. And Santana, if I'm not mistaken, San Antonio, they have like what, Roman, 10 school districts? It's a lot. I probably have the number wrong, but it's a large number of school districts, and they themselves are starting to downsize. If the size of an area such as San Antonio is closing schools, what makes us believe that here in Brownsville we're not going to close schools? And look, yesterday I had someone commenting on the post saying, no, all we need to do is move kids around, move teachers around. Unfortunately, the reality still hasn't dawned on people. And again, what I say, ladies and gentlemen, is not ill will. You know, whatever I say, it comes nothing with love. You know, think of that friend, you know, that tells you how it is, Don't you want somebody, your spouse, your girlfriend, your boyfriend, your husband, your wife? Don't you want them to be real with you? Don't you want them to tell you how it is? Because at the end of the day, I think we prefer someone that is honest in our relationship. We want somebody that is going to be real. What happens, community? What happens once we find out that our spouse has lied to us?
Mhm.
What happens? Ooh, Roman, that's never going to leave our heads. We're always going to doubt our spouse, Roman. If she tells me something, if he tells me something, I'm gonna in the back of my mind, I'll be, is he being honest or is he lying? Yes or no, chat. Look, I've been in a relationship where I have been unfaithful. I have lied to my spouse. I'm not perfect. You know what that caused? That caused friction. That caused turmoil. My spouse never believed me when I said I'm gonna go to the store. You know what she said? The hell you are. You're probably gonna go smash. I'm like, no, I'm being serious. I'm gonna go to the store. Like, no, you're not, you liar. So again,
Wait, you were married?
yeah, bro, I was married before.
Oh, I didn't know you were married.
Yeah, bro,
I
I was unfaithful, bro. I was
Oh, wow.
chiflado.
I honestly didn't know.
Yeah,
Wow.
and
That's when you
and
say you found that. I mean, that another word for a partner
because
now or a girlfriend?
because Roman, I want to be real with
Okay, I
people.
get it. Yeah,
I want to be genuine. Look, I'm not perfect. I've made no qualms. I haven't hit my mugshot. It's on my reviews. If you want to see it, if you want to blast it, heck, I'll share your post if you want to blast me. I'm a human being. I'm trying to day by day be a much better person. I fail, but I want you to know that I'm real. I'm genuine. And I strive to have a perfect body. I strive to have a perfect soul, but I'm human. And all I think that the community wants is honesty. I think if we're real with our spouse, if we're real with our constituents, if we're real with the people, they can accept us and say, you know what? This guy, he's trying and he's being truthful. I could live with that. Because to me, that's all I ask of my partner, of my girlfriend, of my Sanchav. Be real with me. We can get through this. But I'm going to have a problem if you lie to me. Why? Because I'm never going to trust you ever again. So, again, ladies and gentlemen, I want you to understand that this is what we need. It's not no if, ands, or buts whether schools need to be closed. It's going to happen as of right now. And I spoke to my source that gave me the information that 11 schools needed to be closed. They said, Frankie, as of right now, 7 guaranteed. I know I told you 11, Frankie, but 7 guaranteed are on the chopping block. Let the community know to prepare, to get ready.
Look, I think we're gonna have to close the high school. I know that some people may not like to hear it, but we're gonna have
Someone's
to close
saying that, Roman. Who? So I'm hearing Pace. I'm hearing Porter. What are you hearing?
Oh,
Roman?
no. I'm hearing that there's not gonna be a single high school closed, but
I hear that there is.
There has to be like Pace has to be the school. It cannot be Porter.
You know what?
It has to be Pace, huh?
You know why? And my source yesterday, I asked them the same question. I asked them, I keep on hearing of a high school. Is this true? They say, look, man, the one that we feel as if is in the very near future is Pace. And I said, why? They said, because it's one of the oldest schools. Look at Hannah. Hannah's one of the oldest schools, and I think they just invested, I don't know how much money with this bond. I think they were going to invest, what, Roman, 30 million? It's like a crazy amount.
Mm-hmm.
And I asked them, so what's the other school? Let's keep up to the subject, please. I'm sorry, Georgina. But that's the reality. That schools will be closing, and there is talks. Is this true or not? I don't know. That's why I haven't posted it yet. But there is this idea that Pace, because it's so old and it needs so much to fix, that it is next on the chopping block.
Yeah, the reason I'm saying that is because if we are going to have school closing, we need to be prepared and be able to support it, and we need to call for it. And I'm calling for it. Close schools. I mean, I think I've been fairly consistent. Even when the bond came out, we have to close schools. And if you don't like it, tough, because you have to do it. And because we have had declining birth rates, we've also had people leaving the district. And we've talked about that. And the reason I'm bringing this up because there are a lot of new people watching us now. And
Right.
you need to realize that there are more people watching. So if we see repeated, oh, Frankie's doing the same thing over and over again. Like, no, we're not. Because now it's the aftermath. Now we have to remind you of everything that we said before. And now we have to come together and say, we have people leaving the district, moving out. You have, you go to Madeira, the place over there across the street from Rancho Viejo. They're already building houses there.
Yeah.
And those are not in BISD. And who's going to move over there? People that would have been living here in BISD. So they're going to leave the district. It's going to further decline the enrollment. And so we have to be prepared mentally to support the closures of schools. And not that I'm a cold-hearted asshole. I'm just cold-hearted, I guess. Maybe I am. I don't know. But I think it's important that you all know that you're going to have to close the schools. And for me, for my money, one of the things that needs to be closed is Pace High School. And you might ask me, well, why not Porter? It's 1 year older than Pace, because Pace is celebrating their 50th. Porter celebrated their 50th, I think, last year. They're only a year apart. And then Hannah was, I think, 2 or 3 years older than them, because I think it was moved over in the early 70s, if I'm not mistaken. And so they're not that far apart in age. But the reason I say Pace has to be closed is because more people really want to go to veterans in that area. There's not a lot of growth there potentially. And also the ties of Porter specifically being tied so much to Southmost. And then we're going to have to redraw the lines for redistricted to be able to move people out. And that's how you're going to close that school. But that's the school that I would close. I think you're going to have to close Perkins. That's like at least one middle school, if not 2 middle schools. That's the Perkins is probably the middle school I would, to close down. There's not a lot of growth happening in that area anyway. And then you have to look at what other middle school you're going to close. But there's going to be several elementaries you're going to have to close, because there just is. And you're probably going to close the older campuses, not the newer ones, because you've already invested a lot of money into these new campuses. And it's more expensive to fix the older ones. So that would be maybe Putinit, closing Putinit. I know, I would say Skinner is going to have to be one of those people that we close. I honestly don't know what other middle school would have to be closed. I can't think of all of them, off the top of my head. But I've already named you 4 schools: Perkins, Bay, Skinner, and Putinit would be the 4 minimum schools that we'd have to close.
I had El Jardín, Palm Grove.
See, we can't close that one because it's too far away in that area, and there is some growth because of SpaceX and things like that. That's why I'm not sure Palm Grove would be the one to close.
I'm just telling you what my source said. Again, my source has always been very good to this program, and they have been solid. Again, my job, guys, is just to relay information, and the last one that comes to mind, you said Skinner, Egley.
Yeah.
Egley is another one that they advised me that it is going to be on the chopping block. That's the reason why Dr. Chavez made that interview at Egley Elementary, that they needed $16 million in repairs.
The thing is about liquidating assets, that's how you liquidate the assets. You close the school to liquidate those assets, and you're moving teachers around, and you're getting rid of teachers, not just attrition because they're not coming back next year, but you have to fire these teachers. You're going to have to, and then you eliminate some of these. That's how you're going to save the money. We're talking about millions and millions of dollars that are going to have to be saved, because you're going to close these schools, because you're going to have some of these students decide, you know what, I'm not going to stay at BASD, go someplace else. You're going to lose those students. That's going to limit the amount of money you're getting from the state. So you have to do these things. They have no choice. BASD has no choice. And if they want to put lipstick on a pig and start fixing these roofs or whatever that they have to fix, it's not going to solve the problem. It really isn't. But going back to the meeting, because I think that was the topic of the show, was the meeting itself. We've already discussed the fund balance, the fights. I know last night when you and I talked, Frankie, I was really upset about some of the things. Maybe you can remind me some of the things I was upset about. Even though we normally don't talk about what we're going to do the next show, we were both watching the meeting and how ridiculous it was and how they were being stupid. So, do you remember what else I was yelling about? No, I can't remember either. I told you I wasn't going to remember all of it, and I was going to write it down.
I can't. I'm trying to rewind the meeting last night. Also, I don't know if the pack. I can't play it right now, but there was an individual that spoke about the pack, and I thought it was funny because you alluded to the fact earlier in the show of the video that was posted the day before the election where BISD was claiming that the TRE was never intended for a performing arts center. Only for the community to message me on that day. They're like, Frankie, check this out. They're lying. They're lying. Yes, the school board was a packed house with students crying, wanting to build a performing arts center. And something happened. I forget what exactly that the individual said, and it's at the start of the show. Again, for those individuals that are curious to watch yesterday's board meeting, I did post it on the comments where you can go and watch.
Oh, you mean with the auditor? The auditor said that it wasn't.
Yes,
it was a tax rate increase, and it was tied to that. And they were discussing that, but there was also the question about the bond, and that was something that I now remember. Denise Garza was saying, "Hey, you're concerned about the wording because we're using the word bond," and Mr. Elizondo was saying it like that was how it was passed, and nobody corrected us. Like, well, you needed to correct it in order for us to know the scope of the forensic audit that you want to do, and you need to be more specific. It's like, well, why didn't anybody correct us? And then the auditor said, well, I did. I let you all know in executive session. I'm like, wait a second. We're allowed to talk about what happens in executive session now? Like, what? What are you doing?
Mhm.
Like, you shouldn't have said. And I think here's a few reasons why I'm concerned about it. One, there was an absolute concern as to who leaked executive session things. Whenever I think it was you who reported it, Frankie, about what happened in executive session to discuss the appointment of somebody. And
they wanted the DA to investigate.
They were all upset about it, and it's like, guys, we now have a guy talking about we discussed it in executive session and said what he said. Now it doesn't necessarily rise to all the details, obviously, right? But he's over there talking about what happens in executive session. Nobody like, hey, stop it, para tu pedo. No, don't talk about what happened in executive session. So that's kind of a problem. I'm being funny, guys. I'm being funny here. But seriously, there were people that are very concerned about what happened. So here's this guy up there talking about what happened on executive session. I told you all that there was a problem. And so here's the other thing that's problematic. Not everybody that's there in executive session can go ahead and fix it. I mean, there's only certain people that can be in that room. So why did he tell them in executive session and never bother to follow up on it? Why did anybody in that room not follow up on it? It's because nobody could talk about what happened in executive session outward. People were probably really concerned about doing that. We can't talk about what happened in executive session, and this guy's blurting it out there. So it's yet another example of why I am concerned as a citizen as to how you have these budget items happening and nobody's concerned about these resolutions and going back and double checking, triple checking, and make sure that money is there for that forensic audit and how the wording is going to be. But here's the other thing. There's no way for me or you, Frankie, or anybody else in the community to verify what he said in executive session to the board actually happened. I'm not calling the auditor a liar. I'm not even saying anything like, I'm really not. I'm not calling him a liar. I'm not calling him like he's somehow giving us bad info. I'm sure it happened. I have no doubt in my mind it happened. However, there's no way for us to double check because we cannot get access to the transcript and the audio recording of what happens in executive session without a court order. So there's no way for us to, provide that verification that, yes, he did tell them that. And so that way we can hold the elected officials accountable for their screw up. And we can hold the superintendent accountable for his screw up for not fixing it, because ultimately he is hired and fired by the school board. And I think that's just very telling about that particular moment. And maybe you might think, oh, Roman, you're making a mountain out of molehill. I'm not. It's just a symptom of the larger problem. That's just what I think anyway.
Roman, do you remember? I have Yasmin is just commented. What about the voting tally mess on Redfish? How will we know they corrected the wrong tally from 5-2 to 4-3? Do you remember that?
Yeah. Well, sorry. The thing is it'll be in the minutes. It was a 4-3 vote. It's what it is. A 4-3 vote. It was clearly Denise, Daniela, Jessica, and La Golden Girl. They voted in favor of it. It was pretty clear that Frank voted against it. Carlos voted against it because he's verbally said he's not there. Another reason why this voting thing is important. We need to change the freaking policy. Like somebody on the freaking board that's on the policy committee, put it on the policy that we need to stop this remote crap. Like it needs to happen. I mean, I've been saying this for a long ass time for a while. And nobody seems to want to do it. So at this point, it's like none of y'all care. None of y'all. So if you're concerned about how Carlos is reacting, I mean, we have audio from the meeting where the Carlos Elizondo, I believe he called the fellow board members effing stupid. There's actually audio of him doing it during the meeting. Maybe he was calling them effing stupid. Maybe he was calling his fellow, people that he was listening, talking to, because you could, people, it was kind of loud. I mean, why? It's stupid. Like, it's one thing for me to be on a podcast with Frankie and using the F word every once in a while or whatever. But he's over here calling board members, it appeared, calling fellow board members effing stupid in a meeting. He could be like censured for that crap. Anyway. So
I was going to ask you think they would?
Sure. They probably should because he called them all.
He did. He did.
He all six of them. Censure the guy. You might as well do it anyway. But you can solve the problem by eliminating this thing. But yeah. So I going back to the vote. So he clearly voted. But then again, you have me Nedva. Oh, I meant to vote yes. I meant to vote no. I meant to vote no. No. I don't know why I said yes, Frank. Change it. And it doesn't really make a difference. Because there's still 4 votes there to pass that thing. It won't matter. And but yeah, that was interesting. There was another thing that involved Minedva. I don't remember. Maybe it'll come to me. I think it was in my head when you were talking, and I just didn't bring it up. So yeah, it is what it is. But these meetings are interesting. They're fascinating. Very fascinating. And yeah. Oh, there's the other thing that was fascinating to me. We had Señor O'Hanlon. El Mero Mero. O'Hanlon was there. And I'm just like, oh yeah. Mr. O'Hanlon was there making sure. Now, I'm sure he had other reasons to be there. I'm sure that he had like maybe a lawsuit or something going on that he needed to be here in Brownsville for. He just happened to be the lawyer for the November meeting when they're going to vote later on this month to get the new board attorney. It's just an absolute coincidence that he was there. It wasn't an underling. It wasn't a lower level guy. It was El Mero Mero. El Mero Mero. So everyone knows, hey, I'm here. I'm here for you. And he looked good, by the way. He looked good on TV. It was good. Looked good. Yeah.
Again, it's never a dull day in the city of Brownsville. The BISD board is a mess, ladies and gentlemen. It really is. And what is fascinating to me is that even after the community overwhelmingly rejected this proposition of a property tax increase to the people, they're still going to come back and have another bond. And I want you to remember that, because the 5 individuals, to me, they all got to be voted out. To me, it is apparent that these people aren't equipped to be your servants on that school board. I can go on and on. I can talk about each and every one of them and bring something about them that will cause you to stop and realize, you know what? This person is not worthy. But again, ladies and gentlemen, fascinating stuff. Roman is correct. On the 18th, if I'm not mistaken, the school board will be meeting for potentially hiring a board attorney. There is talks that Carlos and his faction want to bring back Baltasar Salazar, who at one point served the school district as the board attorney. Roman pointed it out right now, and it's kind of funny how, we had the big dog. We had O'Hanlon himself. Before, in other meetings, he would say, and look, we understand that he is I'm sure, a very busy individual. They represent multiple school districts, multiple entities throughout the valley, throughout the state. But it is kind of eye-catching, I would say, that the head honcho showed up a few weeks before the school board would ultimately decide for who their next representative, who their next legal eagle is going to be to provide them with legal counsel. Roman, any last words?
Yeah, no, I mean, we do. Original plans was today to talk about what was happening at the city in regards to the committee, but after what happened last night with the board meeting, we have to change plans and talk about this and it's. I kind of wish we would talk a little bit about what happened in the city, and really, it's not even that much. But we'll do that on Monday. I'm assuming that and other things. But my last word is the person who's going to decide who the board attorney is going to be is going to be the Golden Girl, and that should be worrisome for everybody in this community, that an unelected, nearly 80-year-old woman who can ask some of the stupidest questions is going to be the deciding vote as to who is going to represent the board, and we're going to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars. The same idiot woman who voted to raid the fund balance in order to balance the budget and provide for raises and things, all types of crap that didn't need to be in the budget. She voted for it within days of being appointed. I think she was appointed, and then the very next meeting, she's voting on the budget, if I'm correctly. A woman who hadn't even attended a meeting in I don't know how long, other than the meeting that she went in the hopes that she would have been appointed to the board in March. She hadn't done any homework to do it. The woman who says the things that she says, and I have no doubt in my mind because all Frankie's telling me, I think she watches the show. I don't trust you. I think you're probably the worst person to be on the board, even worse than Minerva, because at least she has the knowledge and the breadth of knowledge to be there, because she doesn't hold herself to your standard, I guess. She doesn't think she's all that in a bag of chips compared to you, right? I think that it's an abomination. It's horrible. It's wrong that she is going to be deciding that vote. And I can only hope that it's not Baltasar. I really hope that's not who she ultimately votes for, because that would be bad for the district. It'd be very, very, very bad for the district. And that's just my personal opinion, because and this is why I think it. Before anybody says, why do you think that, Romy? Why don't you like Baltasar? I don't even know the guy. It's because we are a large school district, about to downsize like crazy, but still a larger school district. And we can't just have one person be the lawyer. We need a firm large enough to handle the amount of money that's coming into the district and representing the board as diverse as this board is. It needs to be a firm. And I'm not sure one person can be do the job. That's just what I believe. And so I hope that she doesn't choose him. I'm afraid she's going to pick him. And if she does, Daniela, it's your fault. It's your fault, because you picked her. So if she ended up picking Baltasar, you have only yourself to blame. And I know that Jessica and Denise voted for her as well, because they wanted it to be unanimous. And I'm sure they think, oh, she's so wonderful and qualified, Roman. She looks the part. She's so wonderful. But if she ends up picking Baltasar and you are stuck with her, I'm going to laugh my motherfucking ass off. That's my last word.
I anticipate that Baltasar Salazar is going to be the school board attorney once again. And I actually want that to happen because of people like Susan, who thought that Carlos Elizondo was what he does. Again, all these people that think that Carlos Elizondo is some saving grace to the district, he's just as bad. Again, he was a part of that Jazz Marie profile page that people like Susan and Maggie allowed their platforms or pages to be tagged to disseminate all these hate. So you had a board member hiding behind a profile, being a coward, disseminating all these hate. At least myself, at least you know who it is. And then you have that allegations of corruption where Carlos was giving information to these vendors of the insurance companies when they were out for RFQs. So I hope that Baltasar Salazar gets picked as the board counsel, because it will solidify what we have all known and what we will continue to keep on talking about, that Carlos Elizondo is not what the school district needs. I know that there's people out there that think the best of him. He's a coward. He's a piece of crap. Ladies and gentlemen, if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel titled Franco Olivo TV. Best believe Good Morning Brownsville will come on live Monday through Friday at 9 a.m., sometimes a little bit after. Again, I apologize for having technical difficulties. I'm debating whether we should have a show tomorrow. I hope to be up and running on Monday morning. But again, we will let you know how that goes. I will possibly post tomorrow, tonight or tomorrow morning, if we will do a sports show in the morning, or we'll just wait till Monday. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Frankie. This is Roman. Peace.